Hi guys, it's James here from Optics Warehouse and welcome to our podcast sessions. Today I am joined by a very familiar face on our YouTube channel, that is Mr. Frank Fletcher. Frank, thank you very much for coming in today.
It's my pleasure, nice to see everybody again, and thanks so much for having me again, James.
Not a problem at all, not a problem. So you would have seen Frank obviously do a couple of videos of myself, and of course obviously go through various different sniper videos and bits and pieces. I seem to remember obviously going through the history of sniper rifles and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So it's just, you would have seen him on here. So we're just going to go through, have a nice chat with Frank today, and just go through a little bit about himself, obviously what he's got coming up, and then we'll talk about some of the products that we've obviously just released here at Optics, so we can just have a little chin wag over that as well, as long as you're happy to do that.
Fantastic.
Perfect. Yeah. So we'll just start off, Frank. Obviously, a lot of people would say seen you on our YouTube channel, etc. Stuff. Just talk us about what you've done really in your life so far.
Certainly. First, I need to apologise. I was a little bit late. I couldn't find my camouflage trousers this morning. But no, so I was in the army 24 years, joined in 1982 and retired in 2006. Parachute Regiment is where I was in, and I spent a lot of time, particularly the last 15 years, involved in sniping. When I retired from the army, I initially fancied being a paramedic, and I'd built up a few medical qualifications to do that. But then actually, as things transpire, I realised probably my forte was sniping rather than paramedicing.
Rather than helping.
Yeah, so I chose to go down that road. I had a lucky break. I spoke to and then eventually joined Accuracy International.
Yeah.
Who is Reviewers No Supply sniper rifles. And when I joined them in 2006, they'd never employed a sniper before. They rested on their laurels of producing excellent target rifles at a shooting level which was national and international. In fact, one of the rifles that Dave Walls, who was still the owner director of Accuracy International, supplied to Malcolm Cooper, who at that time was the gold medal winning shot. And in fact, he got 2 gold medals, and one was with a rifle that Dave Walls supplied him. So that success, and then the problem with the rifle, the old 42, the Army's rifle, which was the Enfield sort of rifle dated back to World War II, it struggled in the Falklands War. And so suddenly the Army wanted something new. They liked this rifle that Malcolm Cooper had, and that's where sort of I came from. So I was very lucky. So I went to work for him for quite a few years, and I saw the progression of the 338, which I'd actually used when I was in the Army. It went into the Marines and Paras and Special Forces had it first. 2008, it was brought into the British Army, and then it was used intensively in conflicts like Afghanistan and Iraq, and particularly as the fighting was increased in length. Personally, what I saw was that calibre go from 1400 when I was in the chair to 2,400. In fact, the longest kill was credited to Craig Harrison, who was Household Cavalry, actually a student of mine on a sniper course many years ago. And he was credited with 2,474 metres.
Yeah, so
it wasn't the first round hit,
no,
as these things are very on, but nevertheless, it was still an outstanding feat of marksmanship and skill. Yeah,
I think I've actually seen him on interview before. Actually, seeing on he talks through how because he obviously had to bring the shot up to the. I think it was Taliban insurgents, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. The unit he was supporting got into trouble, and so his firepower, as invariably happens with quite a few long-range sniper shots, was able to suppress the main threat. In this case, which was a machine gun, which was pinning down some of the troops who were in a flooded area. And the Taliban had actually flooded this area, so the vehicles got bogged in as well. So he was credited for that long shot. Him personally, he struggled after that, particularly with PTSD and other stuff, and you've probably seen that.
Yeah.
But when I knew him, he was a rogue outside. He was on a tough course against some very good units from the Guards, particularly the Coldstream Guards, Irish Guards back then, and Parachute Regiment, of course, and he was top student. So there you go.
Yeah.
And again, he sort of he's done very well for himself since. He's found very good work, but of course that's also all to do. But going back to AI, AI were a very good organisation, and I got a lot out of it. What I wanted to get into was training. And when I left the army, I was well known in the army, particularly in the sort of sniper community there. But you have to find your feet when you leave, and that was a problem really. So working for AI, meeting with snipers, particularly all around the world, just helped me to establish sniper training. You know, a company, a civilian organisation like AI, they can teach people how to maintain weapons, and they can teach people how to what we call user calls, how to use them. What we can't do is do sort of fundamental sniper training.
Yeah.
So that was where I sort of, when I stepped away, I went back to doing that. So today I also have a few products. I've been very lucky. I've won a couple of contracts to supply the MOD with sniper hiders and various filters. A lot of the filters are based upon the threat, which is currently in Ukraine and things like that. So I have a few products, improved ghillie suit, which after an experience of a friend of mine who got burned in one, I've made a fireproof ghillie suit, which still weighs just 1.2 kilograms, so it's quite good. And then the other project, which came out of out of the blue, was this sniper pocketbook, which I'm doing. So what happened with that was I was working with the sniper division, which are part of the Warminster School of Infantry. They have a direct fire wing, and they run courses for the sniper commanders. And so a lot of these chaps on this course are quite seasoned snipers. Some of them I've known for quite a long time. Not really when I was in, but since when I worked for AI and stuff. And they all said, when is your new sniper pocketbook coming out?
When is your new sniper pocketbook coming out?
And the whole point of this, when we first, I was approached by military pocketbooks. And they brought out the soldier pocketbook.
I've never seen it, so
That's it. And the original guy, John Harris Senior, who'd been in the military, I think he was in the light infantry, but he wrote this series of books which helped people who were going through recruit training. And they said, can we have a sniper chapter? Anyway, so I gave them this chapter. And then apparently on the Army Rumour Services, on the internet, they said, that was such a good chapter, can we have a book? At that time, a guy who used to work for me was killed in Iraq. He was a sniper in the parachute regiment. And then another guy, a very good friend of mine, got shot and wounded, seriously wounded. So I thought we can do some good with this book. So part of the money from that book went into wounded soldiers. So that was quite good. And so where we are at the minute is I've got the book has had a massive rehash. Now we're post Afghanistan. And something else within the military, they've had a lot of problem with maintenance of weapons. Like all militaries have. There's been a number of reasons for this, but what's come out of it is a new cleaning regime. So gone are the days where people putting solvents in, they're doing chemical cleaning, which is really where you bathe a barrel or you fill a barrel full of solvents and use copper and carbon remover. Currently, they've switched to a paste. Quite a new idea. A lot of target shooters do it. But currently, it seems to be working for the military.
And there doesn't seem to be much residue left internally.
No, it's basically, and they're not using phosphor brushes. You're basically using just the jag, which goes on the end of the barrel. When you apply flood and lead, but before you be very careful, now you liberally use two large pieces. To clean a 338, we'd have a 308 jag or a 30 cal jag, two pieces of flood lead, and you cover the whole length of the jag with the flood lead. When you apply the paste, just about a pea-shaped piece of paste, you rub it in there. And then also, because you want to clean the main critical area of the barrel, you mark your cleaning rod so it doesn't go through, doesn't come out of the crown, it just sits just short, just slightly beyond the crown. Otherwise, it all comes through and you have to take it off. You can't drag it back. So this is what's happening. So this paste has been applied in the barrel. We concentrate on the area just below the scope. And it seems to be working. It's very effective, and because it's a paste, when you've got to be very careful when you put patches through to remove the material. But again, the system they've come up with is what I'll put in the book, and we're able to remove all the paste out there. And if you had the budget or you was able to do a bore inspection of a camera, it is actually removing a lot of material.
It's good. I think it sounds like obviously maybe you think that's something that will move on to the civilian side. It's something I'm a particular advocate of. I'll be honest, I'm quite anal about it, actually cleaning my rifles. Some people, they've never cleaned their rifles before, but I personally, I don't see to that.
And it is a controversial area. Because there's a lot of, when I worked for AI, there was a department, well, one guy really, and I took over that job, was to test all the new cleaning products. And people want to promote what they've got. And of course, as we become more and more worried about the environment, the chemicals went from being ammonia-based, like sweets for removing copper, to sort of more eco-water-based products. But one of the tests then was to get a copper coin, like a 2p, put some of this material on it, leave it for an hour or so, or whatever it says on the instructions, and see what effect it did on So some were good, some were not so good. And personally, I don't see it as a weapon, but I mean, I've still got, which I cleaned I sort of chemically cleaned them, and I never really had any major problem. I'm not saying I was doing something that the sniper community wasn't doing, but it's like when I was in the army, I got given a Land Rover, I go and rag it across the country. And now I've got a Land Rover, I'm a bit more careful. I don't smash it to pieces. And that's the nature of the beast.
It's interesting, obviously, looking at cleaning, different cleaning solutions. Obviously, there's this big call now to using copper ammunition, more eco-friendly ammunition, of course. And of course, that leaves more fouling within the barrel. So it's interesting to see if this paste, if it does come to the civilian market, how that would that be more efficient in cleaning it as well, or is it just? Is it obviously it works with lead-based ammunition? Yes, but obviously in terms of copper, do you think it'd have the same sort of?
I think so. You think a military round is predominantly a full metal jacket. Boat tail round, so it's got a copper cover on it. And remember, the bullet is bigger than the barrel, so if you try and drop the round into the barrel, it would just get lodged.
Exactly,
Obviously, on the firing action, it's under pressure, it forces it down the barrel, beyond, and then into the rifle where it starts to part spin. So these material, particularly on the new barrel, because when you get a new barrel, you look down and you think, oh, fantastic, but actually, it's quite rough. There's little holes in it, and the problem is even the barrel breaking in process has come under scrutiny because you get little flakes of copper in the barrel and these holes. And the idea, if you break it in properly, you actually fill the holes and it smooths the barrel out. And then it goes on. I mean, some of the stuff that I did with Accuracy International was endurance testing, where within a week we would shoot the whole life. 338, so we put on one occasion 4,500 rounds through a rifle within 5 days. And we try and clean it like the military would clean, or the police would clean at that time. But ultimately, you get a couple of thousand rounds. It's copper in there, which you couldn't remove, and that copper will then cause problems.
Nice, it's interesting.
And of course, as well as that, you got copper and carbon. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And you also get where the tip of the bullet case, where the bullet would come out. You get a little ring now, which people aren't familiar with. I've put this in the book. This is something, again, new. I wouldn't say controversial, but the method of removing it is controversial. If you go on YouTube, there's people putting brushes in using drills and stuff. A phosphor brush on a drill and stuff like that. But it is quite interesting how this is a problem. And when you scrutinise, you can actually see exactly where your cartridge would fill and stop. There's a little ring where it's leaked out the cartridge as the bullet has been pushed out the cartridge and gone down range. It's in there. And that also, just as important, is cleaning about a third in the barrel. You get the most carbon and copper buildup. So that's all in the book and stuff. So the aim isn't to reinvent the wheel, is to show everybody what's sort of going on. What I have put in the book, though, and I thought was very important, was, and stuff I didn't learn, if I'm totally honest with you, I had a shooting team background, did a lot of shooting in my army career before I even became a sniper and stuff like that. I knew how to manoeuvre cross country, manoeuvre teams, 6-ton and sniper sections and platoons.
Yeah.
How to operate with battle, how to command and lead on operations, and actually fought on many operations and things like that. But it was the actual the nitty-gritty of shooting, and I learned a lot of that from Angus International.
Nice.
So I go shooting with Dave Walsh a lot, and we go shooting. He's in his late 70s now.
Yeah.
He still shoots regularly at Rattan, which is the World 50 cal shooting championship, and he's still a very close runner-up of that. Just before the lockdown, he actually won it. He won the international class.
Oh, fantastic!
It's 50 cal. But we go shooting, and we always learn something new.
Yeah.
It come up, I never knew that.
Yeah.
50 years of shooting at a national and international level, and it's still learning something.
Still every day. So it's So yeah, it'd be interesting also to get my hands on a copy of that book, which obviously say you should be out sort of towards the end of this year, Christmas time, shouldn't it?
Yeah, the aim is to get it out for Christmas. And so the military pocketbook range it is out there. So there's various books for cadets and for soldiers and stuff like that. So this is independent from it, but it sort of added its roots in that sort of series.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, it's obviously it's interesting. Obviously, speak about your career and obviously what you've done and whatnot. Let's sway on to the glass side of things, onto optics. Obviously, you've had experience with a lot of different day optics. I've seen obviously you're a big fan of Schmidt and Bender, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think? Obviously, I know obviously from you doing more your long range stuff. Obviously now moving on to like the PRL, PRS. Obviously, this new airgun league that's coming out.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's to obviously see that one come up the other day. I mean, seeing how good the glass has been in the military, seeing that go on to the civilian side of things, and how affordable I think it's actually become now. I mean, what do you think in terms of the actual, is the quality, is it still maintaining a high standard? And it's just...
Yeah, I think so. I think the glass has evolved. I mean, when I first started out, I wasn't a sniper when we had the L42. I was in the patrols of a recce element, so I was very familiar with it, and I shot it a few times. You couldn't really get on a sniper course back then. There were certain personalities who had certain people they liked. But certainly the L42 had the number 32 scope on it, which dated from World War II.
Right.
And it was times 3.5 magnification. The only thing that happened, it had been converted from imperial to metric. And that was what we used in the Falklands War. And actually in the mid-80s. Yeah. When the L96 came in, it had a times 6 scope on it. And it was a massive game changer. Yeah. And then in the late 90s, that was replaced by another Smith & Bender, the 3-12 by 50, which had the reticle, the P4 reticle, reticle. Yeah. And again, that was a game changer. And on the 338, I mean, there was a number of long kills which weren't publicly made in the early days of Afghanistan. The guys were using 3-12, and they were having to reset the sight at 0 when it was at 1,000 metres. And get some long shots. Because at the time they wanted it kept out of the public sort of press. It wasn't really until there was a guy called Reynolds, who was in the Black Watch, I believe, who did a long shot with 338. He killed a notable Taliban commander who was causing problems for the military. He took him out, I think that was in Masakala. And then following him was Craig Howson. So it just showed what could be done. Yeah, exactly. The glass they had really was all Smith & Bender. Latterly the 5-25 by 56. And the reason I still, because I'm sort of brought up with Smith & Bender, so I sort of stick with them. Like most companies, and again this is my opinion here, and no one should take any offence to this, but I watched a lot of the scopes go down the sort of US market road. Right. And some of the reticles gone in, so there's no need to make a deflection or a windage adjustment. So they put a cap on the turret things, which if you're using like a Tremor reticle, horse Tremor, Tremor 2, 3 or 59 and stuff, and that's what you want. But some of the manufacturers trying to get a bit too clever Whereas what I still like is the original 5-25, 56 double turn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's limited for range. Off the top of my head, on a 338 configuration like the MOD would use, you've included the mil dot hold, you've got about 1800 metres of engageable range using the full length of the of innovation. 260 turns, but I think with the angle on it, it's about 245, something like that. But of course, there's a lot of new kids out there, new scopes out there, very good companies. I mean, Nightforce, very popular.
Yeah. I was going to say.
But there's a lot of things you can do with Nightforce. But Leupold always in the background with their Mark V, very good range of scopes. Again, that's improved. Nightforce again, very good. Yeah. And of course, some new kids. The ones you have.
Yeah, well, I was going to say actually, we're starting to sell more and more. I think with Zero Compromise. Obviously, you had a chance to have a look through one. Yeah, obviously, you keep it relatively simple with their 3 different type of reticle configurations. MPCT1X being like a not basic cross, but a cross with a slight few subtensions on the bottom, going to the MPCT3X, which is of course the full Christmas tree graduation on there. Then they've got the Tremor available as well, which you've obviously seen on like some of the Nightforce attackers, the 732s. So it's interesting seeing how that's coming. Again, this PRL stuff. It's becoming more and more popular within the UK. So it's which brings me nicely actually on to obviously talking about the Precision Rifle League. Obviously the sort of stuff they're shooting off, like the barricades and bits and pieces. Yeah. Obviously those guys, they're under the clock. They do it well. I mean, what sort of tips would you do? Obviously, I know you've got your main 4 principles of marksmanship, but when you're under the clock, under that sort of time pressure, shooting out 600 yards in maybe a necessarily uncomfortable position, what sort of tips would you
certainly. I mean, it's the great thing about the shooting industry in the sniper world particularly. I mean, sometimes you have to go back 100 years to what was being taught then. I mean, for example, on the sniper skills, there's 8 of them, and there's 7 sniper skills of it. There might be a new one introduced, but in World War I, there were 6, like shooting, marksmanship, observation, judging distance, these sort of things. And they're just as relevant now as they were then. But certainly the way things are going on shooting, tips for people would be to practice. When I was in a shooting team, you would actually go from a kneeling position, you'd get in a comfortable kneeling position, and then you would literally step up and take 2 or 3 paces backwards with a weapon, and then you would practice getting in that position, and you could do it fast and speedy, but you'd be always in the same position. So practice. And barrier shooting, I mean, yesterday we had a little play with some barriers, and we've made a video which is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but when you do any sort of barrier shooting, use the right aids, use a rice sock. I left the bipod on yesterday because we had a Harris, and that's realistic. Like in the military, there are quick release Harrises out there, but what people learn, particularly later on in Afghan and stuff, was when the bipod was fitted and you was under fire, you'd try and get as low as possible. So you didn't have time to take it off and put it on. You'd just leave it on. Whereas traditionally you'd take the bipod off if you use any position rather than prone. But so some of the tips would be is just practice. I watched something once where there was a group of military guys and they were using an assault rifle and they were given a reactive target. The target would expose itself and back for half a second. And to start the first couple of hours, they were in clip. They were shooting all over shot. They were shooting when the target was off. And they was having stoppages and changing mags. But a few hours later, after keep doing it, they were starting to get it. They would increase their shooting ability. So that old adage, train hard, fight easy. It's true. So if you're in the precision league, practice what you're going to do. Practice and try it. I mean, I had a little old Claymore bag. It's a bag that the Claymore anti-personnel mine came in. They're very popular back when I joined the army to keep the bags. But they're quite good for snipers, and I had a couple of rice bags and all rear butt bags. So I had them to hang on the barriers. I mean, some people would take them on. But you can't really rest a weapon on something solid.
Yeah.
And particularly the point yesterday was the free floating barrel. You can't touch the barrel on any tree and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And I proved a point yesterday on the barrier. The barrier wasn't the most robust barrier.
Yeah.
But when I put the bag on every shot and I let go of it, it was still neatly balanced on there. So the key, I mean, with a little bit of experience and having been involved in some training where we taught this, and also seeing people doing it, seeing what I think was good and bad. That's the whole point. So points get the balance. Like when we talk about the tripod in a minute, when we put on the tripod, get the balance. Yeah. So when you step away and go back, that weapon's still on the target. In fact, what people don't realise is the shot that Craig Harrison took. It was the weapon was on the wall.
Right.
And he had a sandbag, but he aimed it like a plank of wood at the target.
Yeah.
When he moulded his body.
Yeah.
And certainly, what I see sort of Accuracy International is they went from like the Parker Hale with long bipods and things, even on the 50 cal, all the weapons got lower and lower and lower to the ground, which meant you was actually aiming at the target. You had more stability from weapon because your rear support and your front support is extremely important. Yeah. And the same for barrier. Yeah. So a good rice bag. I mean, I've looked at there's a lot of people out there make special bags that you can hang on, which are very good. And the key is when you do any sort of barrier shooting, don't just make it easy. Look at the problematic ones. You know, if you have to cant the rifle 90 degrees, don't be scared of doing it, but just be appreciative. Shoot a piece of paper, then put the cant on and see where your full of shots go. Yeah. As you know, even with a bipod, if you do a full tilt to the right, at 400 metres, you'll probably be off your target. A man size, a hit size 12 inch target, so you'll be clipping the edge, and then go back the other way. You'll be, you know. Yeah. So you've got to learn all this stuff.
Yeah, that's it. And it's obviously going to be interesting to see how the precision air rifle guys they get on as well, because it's obviously good seeing a lot of the principles that you get with your long range past 800 metres up to 1500 metres shooting. Those principles apply, of course, to the airgun guys that are shooting past 50 metres. So because it's obviously the same, not necessarily the same ballistics, but you're going to get those drop characteristics on there. So obviously, it'd be interesting to see how they perform.
Yeah, and that's a key, the marksmanship principles. And the other principles of sights, aiming, breathing, trigger control, that is applied as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd say when you have a recoil, because when you shoot off a tripod or you shoot off a barrier, you have to let the weapon recoil. Yeah. Of course, on that recoil, and then you push the weapon back onto the target, so as quick as I'm speaking. Yeah. If you're off the target with your next shot, it means you won't naturally line sight. No. And the real skill is you're under pressure of time. Yeah. You've got to get on there. But a lot of people practice in the dark. Yeah. You know, they sort of put a target on the wall, get the wife to come in, turn the light off, and they feel from the target on the wall, get the wife to come back in and think, I'm aiming over there. Yeah. And eventually you get used to, there's lots of things.
The natural build of muscle memory towards
And one important thing to remember is your point of aim and your point of impact. So remember, you aim in and where the bullets land on a weapon system like a sniper rifle should be harmonised. So if you've got the correct elevation data set or you're using the correct hold, they should meet the same point. But if you do that in a prone position with a bipod, and then you stand up and you hold the weapon, it's going to be different. Yeah. If you go to the kneeling position, or you're in a fire trench and you're using a corner of that, or you go for a sitting position, it's going to be different. Yeah. So what you need to learn is you fire using the same point of aim, but to see where your point of impact's going. Yeah. So for example, when you go to a kneeling position, you might find that actually your shots land in the slightly high level. So what you've got to do is remember that. So when you go from one position to the other, you think I'll aim low right, just slightly, but you've got to learn all this stuff. Yeah. And I've seen many people going, you're going to adjust your sights. No need to adjust your sights. Just learn where it's going to go.
Adjust yourself first, yeah.
And also with some modern rifles like the AI, you can actually rotate the bipod. Sorry, not bipod, the butt. Yes. The butt weld, so you can change it in a cheek piece. Yeah. Don't be scared to change it, or find one which suits different positions, you know.
It's interesting. Obviously, you go through all that. We're just going to come on. You briefly mentioned it a second ago. Obviously, tripods. You very kindly recorded a video for us yesterday at local range. I'm just going to talk briefly, not trying to plug too many products obviously here, so it's just so people get to know you sort of thing, but the Wolf Raptors, obviously they're launching very soon, actually this week in fact. Just obviously they're nice lightweight carbon tripods with this sort of ball head and obviously sort of Arca plate Picatinny reversible on top and whatnot. I mean, as in terms of tripod, just give us your initial thoughts.
So I mean, I've currently got some of the top range tripods which are out there, carbon based, by two very good manufacturers. I've got quite a bit of experience of shooting off tripods, evaluation of them and stuff. The big thing that you have here is the fact I was surprised how good it was, and for the price as well.
Yeah.
It's a big difference in price.
Absolutely.
But actually, they're very stable, and again, the proof of the pudding is to put the weapon on it, get on a target, step away, and remain on that target.
Yeah.
And again, you mould your body around and just carefully work that trigger. Of course, some of the mistakes people make with tripod shooting is they fiddle around. And really, the key is to put the leading leg to the target. You put and then people worry about what length to extend it.
Okay.
The trick is when you put your leading leg out, even mark it up so you know how far you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So you know if you're going to go for kneeling position or sitting for you. And remember, the key is to sit there in your position, nice and comfortable, with your eyes shut. And you don't have to hold a weapon, but just hold something. But make sure it's natural, and then get someone to measure the height of a cradle or what you're going to be arc row, what are you going to shoot from, so it matches the weapon and then mark set up accordingly. The worst mistake is you force your body into an unnatural position on the tripod and stuff like that. And what I was saying about the legs is extend one leg and measure all the same. Yeah. Extend them all exactly the same. Just start off with.
Okay.
And then get the tripod stable. Remember, a lot of them have like this one and has a little spirit level on it.
Yes.
If you're not interested, remember on the rifle scope, the important thing is your scope leveler. So we're mounting the scope on the weapon and we use a level either on the rail itself or on the scope itself to level that to the weapon. So when it's on the tripod, we're not really too concerned with it. No. As long as you get that scope level, that means it's 100%.
Exactly.
And remember, the reason for that is because of the scopes. Again, you're inducing a bit of cant, so your elevation becomes a bit of a deflection and stuff like that.
That's interesting. As I say, obviously these are going to be available very soon. So just a little plug, as Frank says. Obviously, if you take those tips into account and stuff, how to use it, and hopefully you can successfully use the Raptors to your own overlish. I mean, personally, I obviously do a lot of hunting, so I prefer using sticks. Using quad sticks, I find them much easier to use, much more compact and easy to carry with me. So it's a bit areas. Tripods, as I say, these tripods, I think they will be used a bit more in the PRL stuff. I know a lot of airgun guys obviously sitting in a barn, rat shooting, all that sort of stuff. It's a nice steady
the difference between the two, isn't it? Your sticks. I mean, when you go stalking and stuff, opportunist, isn't it? Deer suddenly appear, particularly in the early hours of the morning, but in the military, you would set up and you get the rifle on the target, and then you manipulate the position. When you stay, you might have to stay there for a period of time. Sometimes within your endurance, depends on the size of a team, depends on your endurance. But you could be there for a couple of days, and that's the whole point of it. And then in an urban role, again, if you was in a building like this, and we had a firing aperture to shoot out of, and we had maybe a backdrop and a front screen, then the tripod needs to be on the target. So that's a function. But I mean, first impressions are very good from that. Yeah, there's a couple of things I would change, but I think most people are critical of stuff.
Yeah, that's it. I'm just gonna focus on, obviously you said yourself you were in the parachute regiment. I'm just obviously going to roll on to hopefully what you are going to be doing in terms of D-Day in a second. So I'll come to that in a second. I will ask the question: how many jumps have you done?
Yeah, over 100.
Over 100. I'd only ask.
6'6" when I joined. 5'4" now.
Well, I think I must say she's gonna hate me for saying. I think my mother's got the same excuse. She was she was a Wren, and she did. She I think it's about 15 to 20 jumps. She's under 5 foot now. She's always claimed to be over 5 foot, so I think that's where it's come from. I just thought I'd ask the question on that because, of course, yes, you are going to be jumping on the D-Day Memorial, aren't you?
That's right. Yeah. So it's something that's been in the planning. I packed up parachute when I left the army. I'd done enough, and of course, when you do it in the regiment like that, you have everything bolted onto you. And I was in a mortars, jumping mortar kit, and something you're jumping over your body weight, and it's not much fun. In fact, a lot of people join it and they hated parachuting, but they were in the parachute regiment. But when I left, there was an opportunity to do some historic jumps, and it led to doing the D-Day 75th, an event called Dax over Normandy. And I took part in it, and I was in aircraft number 4, which had actually dropped American paratroopers, 101st Airborne in World War II. And that was an outstanding event. We jumped into a World War II drop zone, a place called Sannerville, which was used by 6th Airborne Division. It was one of the 2, well actually one of the 3 drop zones they used. But yeah, amazing experience. And they put 230 paratroopers out on a historic job.
Fantastic.
Next year we're going to repeat the same. There's a number of events going on, which are just becoming public now. But I managed to get a slot on a Dakota. There's a way to look at it, it's going to be a sort of British jump and an American jump. And the British jump at the minute is going to be mounting at North Weald Airfield and jumping into Duxford.
Right.
And I think that's June the 1st. And then on June the 2nd, so again a few days before the actual D-Day, we're going to fly across and jump into France.
Oh, fantastic.
I heard it's Carentan, which is an American drop zone, but that's still to be determined. And then these Dakotas are then going to pick up some people who are going to jump into U Pottery, which would be quite good, right? Obviously from 101st Airborne. And I believe they're going to go from there and jump back into some of the historic American drop zone. And I was very lucky in June. I always wanted to jump at St Mary Glees, and I jumped near there on a World War II drop zone. And of course, just like it was then, they come down with the hazard railway lines, pylons, other parachutists, cows, vehicles, buildings, haystacks. One lunatic, they even filmed it, and when he came down and landed in the only big puddle, and actually went right into it.
Good stuff. So I've been over to North France. I've been over to Pegasus Bridge. Of course, obviously, I guess a very big affiliation, of course, in the parachute regiment. It's quite sombering actually when you go and you see that sort of place.
And that's the point of jumps. I mean, when you're in the military, it's very hard to get on a historic jump like that, particularly out of a World War II Dakota. I mean, you had to be either the guy in charge or name pulled out the hat. But when I came out, there was an opportunity to do it, and I got it through Bruce Crompton. Bruce Crompton, everybody knows him, the company guy from his show Combat Dealers.
Right.
I mean, he does a lot now for military museums. He runs a podcast called Bruce's Amazing War Stories. Right. The whole point is to support museums, military museums, which struggled during the lockdown. And I was actually with Bruce when he had his accident, and he jumped out of a Dakota. He had a bad accident landing in a tree, and then subsequently fell out of a tree, and then got badly injured, and that was the end of his sort of career, military parachuting and stuff. Probably is a bit old for it anyway. No, we all know.
Fair
don't bounce so well anymore. You know?
No, fair enough.
But yeah, incredible. Good. I'm looking forward to next year. Might be my last jump. After that.
Fair enough. So obviously, you must keep. Does it? You have some sort of. You have to forgive my language. Obviously, you get like a parachute license as such, so you can.
Yeah. I belong to a club called the Realm Parachute Canopy Team. And also, I mean, we've got our own club as well, the Commemorative Parachute Jump Team, and they're all part of the British Parachute Association, because you can't jump round canopies in the UK, but you can at certain events. We also did a jump at not far from Leicester, the Crosby Show. Fantastic show. We managed to jump out of Dakota there. But yeah, so it's all legit and stuff. To get on that D-Day Dax over Normandy jump, you had to have your own rig. So you had to buy your own parachute. Of course, we all pack our own and stuff.
Of course, absolutely.
And you've got to jump in the World War II clothes.
Oh, fantastic.
So get a nice metal helmet on. Denison smock. And you just see hairy trousers.
I'm just going to go over one last topic with you today, Frank. Obviously, we've spoken about quite a lot today. That is, of course, I've got the Hik Micro Habrox, the latest in night vision and thermal spotting from Hik Micro that we've got coming out sort of beginning next week or so. It should be actually. I believe you've got a story of trying to watch, because those of you who don't know that we actually did film a short video trying to do a thermal evasion. We will be doing getting a proper one sorted out, and obviously bits and pieces getting that filmed out. That was a lot of fun that day, wasn't it?
Watching a lunatic covered in mud, Predator style.
Yeah, we tested the theory of, obviously, I don't know if those of you have seen Predator, whether or not this covering in mud actually worked. What Frank failed to tell me was, of course, that they tested it on my arm to see if it would work. Forgot to tell me it doesn't work, and let me get myself covered in mud anyway.
Yeah,
so
unfortunate, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's bloody cold that day, I can say that. But I believe you've got a little bit of someone obviously you saw trying to crawl across, trying to get somewhere they shouldn't have been.
Ridiculous situation. So this was back in the 80s where the cruise missiles would come out of Greenwood Common.
Yeah.
And of course, there was a lot of people in the UK would be opposed to nuclear weapons. We had C&D and all that stuff going on. And the main role of UK PLC, i.e. us, was because when the Americans came out, sometimes you knew they might actually have live warheads. Other times it was a training exercise, and they would use areas, mainly military impact areas and stuff like that. They would put a lethal cordon, so if you got close to them, they were empowered to use lethal fire. So our role really was to protect the cordon and stop protesters and anybody trying to get into them, to sort of protect them. So on one occasion we had a Milan missile set up, and we took the Myra, which was a thermal imaging, which is still, even today, an outstanding piece of thermal imagery and detection equipment. So we had these towers built with this stuff in. And anyway, we didn't need to go up the tower because one of the protesters decided to wear a silver blanket, a survival. It wasn't a blanket, it was actually a survival bag. So it looked like a large reefer. And you saw this silver slug crawling from this field. Anyway, it went on for about 20 minutes, and we just sat there. I mean, a bloke could see him with a thermal thing anyway, but this is the old example of remember your camouflage and concealment, don't wear silver in the middle of a green field. Anyway, he crawled for it was probably about a kilometre. And we had police with us. In the end, the police went over and arrested him, and this poor chap, he was so cold and wet, we had to sit him in a tent and make him something to eat, give him a brew to warm him up. So maybe go viewers, don't wear a silver foil blanket and try and defeat thermal.
That was fantastic. Well, Frank, I have to say it's been an absolute pleasure having you in here again today. As I say, it's always good listening to you dit on. As I say, it's some of your stories, they never fail to amaze me. So
and it's amazing who you meet. Just the other day, I met the guy who invented Tipex.
Right.
I said to him, "You invented Tipex? Correct me if I'm wrong."
God's sake. You had to get one joke in, didn't you?
Sorry. My apologies.
Excuse me. Anyway, on that note, now I want to do the two Ronnie sign-offs. So it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from him. But no, thank you so much for coming in, Frank.
My pleasure. Always
viewers,
love it.
I really hope you've enjoyed this. As I say, Frank is an absolutely great asset to optics. So obviously very thankful for you doing all your videos and bits and pieces.
And I'd just like to say, it's watching optics grow. Where you are now, new premises, larger workforce, just onwards and upwards. I remember saying to someone years ago, one day these are Europe's largest optics supplier.
No, I think we're well.
I don't think I was wrong to say that.
No, I think we're pretty much there now. But as I say, guys, please don't forget to check out. We've got the video. Frank's got the video of the tripod coming out very soon. Don't forget to check out your pocketbook, Sniper's pocketbook coming out. Is it out now?
We're going to do some work on that.
Yeah.
And like I said, we've supported some military charities. Charities at the minute are Pilgrim Bandits, Save Our Paras, and then there's another one called the Association, which is linked with the Royal Marines and stuff.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's good. Can't miss out the Marines, you know.
No, so yeah, the old man will be here, happy to hear that. Right, so yeah, thank you very much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, check out any comments below, or contact us if you've got any questions. But until next time, guys, thank you very much. I've been James, and Frank.
And
Thank you very much for watching the podcast.
Thank you.